Welcome to this latest care sector update video. I'm joined by Melanie Weatherly, who's the CEO of Walnut Care and also co-chair of the Care Association Alliance, but she's also a fellow of the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence. Nice, and it's nice to have her. Also, we've got Tony Stein, the CEO of Healthcare Management Solutions. Now, Melanie operates a business that looks after people in their own homes, and Tony operates a business that has a lot of nursing homes around the country looking after lots and lots of residents. First of all, Melanie, let's turn to you. We've had a long period of time during the coronavirus pandemic. How do you think your business has changed and pivoted as a result?
I think fundamentally it hasn't changed. We still provide care and support to vulnerable people in their own homes, but in lots of ways it has changed. If you'd asked me before the virus, was I blessed with a tech-savvy workforce, I'd have said no. But actually now we do training by Zoom, we meet by Zoom, we text each other. We just communicate in a totally different way, and everybody's very comfortable with that.
I suppose you would expect people who might have been in your workforce previously to have used their iPhones and their tablets at home, social media and so on, but not adapted it for work, and you seem to have picked up the habits and training they'd given themselves.
Probably, and also some of our older staff hadn't used it before at all, other than to log in and log out on their normal calls, but they put their efforts in. I know some of them spent hours learning how to log on because they wanted to access training that they needed about COVID and how PPE had changed and how their job had changed. And I'm really absolutely amazed at the amount of time and effort some of them put in to do something that they'd never wanted to do before.
When they actually get into the workplace, which is individuals' own homes, what kind of things have changed for you there, and what services you provide?
I think the PPE we wear has changed. We've always worn some, but the amount we wear has changed and has changed regularly throughout the pandemic, sometimes at very short notice, which gives its own problems. It means you're then intruding into people's homes with boxes of masks and paper towels and all kinds of things that you need to find out where you're going to put them. So we've actually invested in lots and lots of plastic flip-top boxes so that we're not littering up people's homes with debris and making it and keeping it safe as well.
Yes.
Yeah, the basic job may not have changed, but some of the tasks we do, which previously our district nursing colleagues did, they've been able to safely delegate that to some of our staff, and that's given them extra skills. It's reduced the number of people that have been into homes, which was really important at one point when we wanted to protect our vulnerable service users as much as we could. And I think the amount of reporting back they do has changed. Because there aren't lots of other people going in, our staff have had to become more aware of when they needed to call on someone else. They can no longer assume that that person's going to be there anyway. And I'm hoping that some of those changes will stay.
Now, I suppose the way they're paid for may have to change in the future as well. And I'll ask that question to you, and then I'm going to bring Tony in, because I know it's something he feels strongly about.
Absolutely. I mean, home care workers who work on the statutorily funded side get paid for the time they're in someone's house, and that's it. So if there's suddenly a gap in the round because someone has gone away for the day, their wages drop. I can't imagine any other industry where you would be expected to be available for work and not being paid.
Yeah.
But that's the norm in our industry. They're now taking on, they've always had responsible jobs, they're taking on more responsibility. And it's really important that that's recognised. Clapping for carers is absolutely wonderful, but it doesn't pay the rent.
Have you seen any concessions towards these points during the pandemic? Have any local authorities stepped in and maybe given you a little bit of extra to work with?
I think some local authorities, my own local authority particularly, have been very, very supportive in terms of paying additional costs. So I'm paying for training. I think the paying for the enhanced roles is more complicated because they're often health tasks. So the local authority legally can't pay for them. They're not allowed to. But there are conversations happening that recognise that this has been done on goodwill during the pandemic, and that's right and proper. but it can't continue on goodwill. If it's going to be sustainable, if it's the right thing to do, then the staff need to be recognised in terms of their role and in their remuneration.
Let's bring Tony in. Tony, that you have obviously had to pivot your own business during the pandemic, and we've talked about that before. What about this question of the way it is funded and paid for, and listening to the way in which, it's clear Melanie has had to negotiate goodwill and piecemeal payments to help keep it all going?
Yes, I think the old cries of inadequate funding are still as relevant now, if not more so, than ever before. I think we've demonstrated a degree of professionalism in dealing with this crisis right through the domiciliary care, residential care, social care settings. We've risen to the challenge very well, and in unprecedented circumstances, in a situation that none of us were prepared for. And I think that to some degree demonstrates more clearly how little such a relied upon service, a fundamental part of our health service, is poorly funded. And I think that that's something we have to deal with going forwards as a government. My biggest bugbear throughout this, we're a national organisation, mainland UK, Scotland, Wales, and England. There are so many different authorities who have been responsible as basically as a pass-through for bringing funds from central government to help us out. And unfortunately, it's passed through the local authorities who have strapped for cash. And the management of that process has been, frankly, pretty poor. And it doesn't surprise me that, underfunded and pretty strapped for cash local authorities have held on to some of that cash a little bit too long. So I think for me, out of this crisis, I would suggest that we need to really seriously consider taking healthcare holistically, social care and acute care through the NHS into a central government funding system. Right. And take it out of the hands of local authorities. That's how I would deal with it.
We've only got 2 minutes left. I want to ask you about the inspection system and CQC and the rating system.
I think the CQC inspections have obviously been on hold. Personally, I think there's no other way of checking quality than to put boots on the ground. The other problem is that CQC will not change a rating unless they have put boots in the ground. Mm-hmm. So unless we can get that system back up and running effectively and efficiently, ratings aren't going to change. And I think the public needs to understand that.
And I suppose that could mean that if you have a poor rating for whatever reason that was granted, last year, you are stuck in limbo. Tony?
You absolutely, and you've hit the nail right on the head, that these ratings have a very real impact on the commercial success or failure of businesses, because people look at ratings before they make choices, and those ratings need to be changed. And CQC has a real responsibility now to get out there and to look at these services very carefully and to re-rate where necessary.
Melanie, do you have any points of view on this?
I think I understand and appreciate that CQC need to start with the services that have caused concern, either to them or to other stakeholders during the pandemic. But yes, it would be good to know when business as usual will be resumed and what that will look like. I'm hoping that they will do as much information gathering and intelligence gathering before they come as they can do, because obviously, particularly in a home that has had a bad experience, the idea of lots of extra people coming into what is a protected environment, we need to minimise that. But we do need to know when business as usual will be there.
All right, Melanie, Tony, thank you for joining us on this latest Care Sector Update.